You gonna watch your temper.
I ain't gotta watch shit.
You gonna treat people right, talk to people right.
No,
you can
I'm
get
not.
your ass kicked around here real quick.
So? Care nothing about it getting out of hand?
And I ain't
3 hours. That's how long it takes to watch a movie, to cook a nice dinner, to finish a work shift. But on one Sunday in Detroit, 3 hours was all it took for a trusted family friend to destroy a life, betray a mother's trust, and commit an act so unthinkable that even seasoned detectives couldn't hold back their horror. 30-year-old Aisha Harris locked 2 babies in a bedroom. One of them, 3-year-old Harmony Henderson, an autistic child who couldn't speak, couldn't cry for help, couldn't tell anyone what was happening to her. Harris shut that door and sat in another room getting high with a friend. 3 whole hours while those babies were locked away. And when little Harmony got sick and threw up on herself, something babies do, Harris didn't comfort her, didn't clean her up, didn't call Harmony's mother. She poured scalding water on that baby's face and head, then took Harmony's head and smashed it into the bathtub. Multiple times. A father would later have to sit down and read his daughter's autopsy report, his voice breaking as he spoke the words out loud. But here's what haunts everyone about this case. Harmony was alive for hours after the attack. Harris had hours to call for help, hours to save that baby's life. Instead, she let Harmony die alone in a bed, then looked her mother straight in the face through a video call and lied. Told her everything was fine, just a little bump from falling down the stairs. The next morning, when Paris, England walked into that bedroom to pick up her daughter, Harmony was already gone. How do you trust someone for decades, call them family, and not know they're capable of this? And why does it take 3 hours to smoke if you're supposed to be watching children?
I hate you so much.
Harmony Henderson was 3 years old. She lived in Detroit with her mama, Paris, England, and her father, Marquise Henderson. They were doing what every parent does, trying to work, trying to provide, trying to make it. And like a lot of parents, they needed help sometimes. Childcare is expensive. Babysitters cost money. So when you got somebody you trust, somebody who's been around for decades, somebody who knows your family, you lean on them. For Paris, that person was Aisha Harris, 30 years old. Not just some babysitter off an app. This was a family friend. Someone who had been in their lives long enough that Paris never thought twice about leaving Harmony with her. Someone she'd known for so long that trust wasn't even a question. It was automatic. It was family.
Tonight on The Edge, a Southfield babysitter who killed an autistic toddler by smashing her head into a bathtub is sentenced now for her brutal crime.
Tears ran down the faces of the little girl's grieving family as they faced her killer in court.
This is one of those stories that sticks with you. The most innocent of victims killed by a woman that the family trusted for decades.
Harmony had autism, which meant she couldn't talk, couldn't tell you if she was hungry, couldn't tell you if she was hurt, couldn't tell you nothing, just being a little girl. But she had her ways of communicating. Her family knew her. They understood her. And she didn't bother nobody. She had her father's whole face. You could see it in every picture. Beautiful brown eyes, little hairstyles her mama would fix with love and care. She was loved. She was protected, or so they thought. Isha had babysat Harmony plenty of times before. There was no reason to think this time would be any different. No red flags, no warning signs. Just another Sunday where Mama had to handle business and needed someone to watch her baby girl. Paris dropped Harmony off at Aisha's house on Detroit's west side that Sunday morning. Probably gave her baby a kiss. Probably told her she'd be back soon. She had no idea, absolutely no idea, that would be the last time she'd see her daughter alive. So here's what went down that Sunday. Isha Harris had Harmony at her house. She also had her own 1-year-old baby there, 2 small children, 2 babies who needed supervision, attention, care. Basic things, right? Things you commit to when you say you'll watch someone's child, especially when that child is autistic, especially when that child can't speak. But Isha had other plans. She had a friend come over. They wanted to smoke. And look, I'm not here to judge nobody for what adults do. But when you got 2 babies in your care, when one of them belongs to somebody else, when one of them can't even tell nobody if something goes wrong, you handle your business first. You don't get high. You don't put your pleasure over their safety. You don't lock them away so you can do what you want to do. But that's exactly what Isha did. She took both children, Harmony and her own baby, and locked them in a bedroom, shut that door, and left them in there for 3 hours. 3 whole hours while she sat in another room getting high with her friend. 3 hours. Let that sink in. 3 hours is a long time when you're 3 years old. A long time when you can't talk. A long time when you're locked away and nobody's checking on you. A long time when you might need something. Water, food, comfort, anything. And nobody comes. That's neglect right there. That's abandonment. And that's just the beginning of what happened to Harmony. At some point during those 3 hours, Harmony got sick. She threw up on herself. Now babies throw up. That's what they do. Maybe she was crying because she'd been locked in a room for hours. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she was getting sick from being left alone for so long. Whatever the reason, it happens. It's not pleasant, but it happens. You clean them up. You comfort them. You make sure they're okay. You might even call the parents and say, "Hey, your baby just threw up. I think you should come get her." That's what a caregiver does. That's what a decent human being does. But Isha Harris got mad. She got frustrated. And what she did next, there's no excuse for it. None. She took Harmony to the bathroom, put her in the bathtub, and this is where it gets real hard to talk about. She poured scalding hot water on that baby's face, on her head. Hot enough to burn, hot enough to hurt, hot enough to leave marks. Harmony couldn't even scream properly because she couldn't talk like other kids. She couldn't cry out for help. She couldn't say stop or please or it hurts. She was defenseless, completely and utterly defenseless. But Isha didn't stop there. She took Harmony's head and smashed it into the side of the bathtub. Not once, multiple times. Hard enough to cause blunt force trauma. Hard enough to cause fatal injuries to a 3-year-old. Harmony didn't understand what was happening or why. All she knew was hurt. All she knew was pain. All she knew was that the person who was supposed to take care of her was hurting her, and she couldn't do anything about it. She couldn't fight back. She couldn't run. She couldn't even ask why. And then after all that, after burning her and beating her, Isha just left her. Didn't call 911. Didn't call Paris. Didn't call nobody. Just left that baby suffering. Later that day, Paris did what any mama would do. She video called to check on her baby. She wanted to see Harmony's face, wanted to make sure everything was good. She was at work. She was trusting. She was doing what parents do when they leave their children with people they've known for decades. When Isha answered that call, Harmony was still alive. But she was hurt, badly hurt. She was dying. And Isha looked straight into that camera, looked straight at Paris's face, and lied. That night, Harmony died. Somewhere in those dark hours, that baby took her last breath. Alone, in pain, in a house that wasn't hers, with a woman who had just beaten her. And Aisha knew. She knew Harmony was hurt. She knew Harmony was dying. She had hours to call for help, hours to do the right thing, hours to try to save that baby's life. But she didn't. The next morning, Paris showed up at Isha's house to pick up her daughter. She walked into that bedroom where Harmony had been left, expecting to see her baby girl ready to come home. Maybe still sleepy, maybe happy to see Mama. Instead, she found her baby laying there, motionless, cold, gone.
She was already dead from the moment I got there.
Just like that. A 3-year-old who'd been alive and fine just 2 days before was now dead. And 911 still hadn't been called. Not when Harmony got hurt. Not when Harmony was dying. Not even when Harmony stopped breathing. Aisha had let that baby die and said nothing. Did nothing. Paris and Isha ended up rushing Harmony to the hospital, but it was too late. Way too late. There was nothing doctors could do. Harmony Henderson was pronounced gone, and the truth was about to come crashing down on everybody. Detroit Police Captain Lori Carter leads the Special Victims Unit. This woman deals with domestic violence, assaults, child endangerment, the worst of the worst. She's seen things that would break most. People, dead bodies, beaten children, the absolute worst of what human beings can do to each other. But when she got the call about Harmony Henderson that Sunday, when she arrived at the hospital and saw that little girl's body, even she was shaken. Here's the thing about investigations like this. The evidence doesn't lie. Bodies tell stories. Injuries tell the truth even when people don't. And Harmony's injuries told a clear story. Burns on her face and head from scalding water. Blunt force trauma to her skull. Bruising. Damage. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a fall down the stairs like Aisha had claimed. This was violence. This was rage acted out on a defenseless child who couldn't even defend herself. And when Detroit police started questioning Aisha Harris, she broke. She confessed, told them everything about locking the kids in the room, about smoking for 3 hours, about Harmony throwing up, about losing her temper, about the bathtub, about the hot water, about smashing that baby's head into the tub. She confessed to it all. Moving on to what happened next, because this is where it gets even more painful for the family, even more real, even more devastating. Paris kept replaying everything in her mind. The video call, Aisha saying everything was fine. Harmony sitting there looking hurt but alive. If Paris had known, if she'd had any idea what Aisha had done, if she'd seen through the LIE, she would have left work right then. She would have gotten there sooner. She would have called 911. She would have done something, anything. But Aisha lied, looked her right in the face through that phone screen, and lied with no hesitation, no guilt, no remorse in that moment. And Aisha had hours to do the right thing, hours to call for help, hours to try to save Harmony's life. But she chose not to. She chose to let that baby die rather than face the consequences of what she'd done. No more tears left, because she cried them all, because the pain was too deep for tears at that point. It was just emptiness, just shock, just the nightmare of knowing your baby suffered and you couldn't stop it. The guilt of trusting the wrong person, the horror of knowing Harmony died alone. Aisha Harris was arrested and charged with murder and child abuse. They took her into custody, and she was held without bond. When she showed up for her first court appearance, she was remanded to custody. The judge wasn't playing. The prosecutor laid out the evidence, the confession, the autopsy, the timeline. The video call where Aisha lied. All of it pointed to one thing. Aisha Harris had killed Harmony Henderson. 2 weeks before trial was supposed to start, Aisha made a decision. She decided to take a plea deal, pled guilty to second-degree murder. The felony murder and child abuse charges were dropped as part of the agreement. She knew the evidence was stacked against her. She knew her own confession had sealed her fate. She knew a jury would hear what she did and want to throw her under the prison. So instead of going to trial, she admitted what she did.
A former babysitter takes a plea deal in the death of a child just 2 weeks before the start of her trial. Aisha Harris pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in the death of 3-year-old Harmony Henderson. Prosecutors say that Harris poured scalding water on the little girl and hit her head against a bathtub.
But that didn't mean the sentencing hearing was going to be easy. Oh no. The hearing was set for May 29th. The family was ready to face Aisha in court, ready to tell her exactly what they thought about what she'd done, ready to look her in the eyes and make sure she understood the pain she'd caused, ready to make sure she knew what she'd taken from them. But Aisha, she had other plans. When it came time for the sentencing hearing, Aisha Harris refused to come into the courtroom. Said she didn't feel safe. Said it was because the news cameras were there, and she was worried about her safety. About what might happen to her if people saw her face. The judge was not having it. Judge Kelly Ramsey called out Aisha's excuse for exactly what it was: disingenuous, a lie, an excuse.
There are some unusual circumstances that I would like to address prior to getting into the sentencing. When we were here for the plea, there was a significant outburst in this courtroom and people were hurt. So if you're looking at this, there's upwards of maybe close to 25 to 30 sheriffs in this room right now to ensure that the decorum of the courtroom is respected, that the sentencing will proceed without incident, and that those expectations will be met. Notwithstanding all of the sheriffs here, I am surprised by the absence of so many people that we had the last time. But the first thing that we're going to discuss is the absence of the defendant, Aisha Harris. And one of the things that this jurist finds slightly disingenuous is the following. This has been a press case since its inception. It is a much bigger press case, presumably, because if somebody knows about what happened the last time, that might have, broadened the interest. I don't know. That's a speculation. However, her face at the initial arraignment, preliminary hearing, I don't know. This has been a press case before, so her face is known.
So what was the real reason Aisha didn't want to show up? Simple. She didn't want to face that family. She didn't want to look at Paris and see the pain in her eyes. She didn't want to look at Marquise and see the rage and grief. She didn't want to hear what they had to say to her. She didn't want to be held accountable in that moment. She wanted to hide, like a coward. The courtroom was packed. Nearly 30 Wayne County Sheriff's deputies lined the walls, standing at attention, ready for anything. Why so many? Because at the last hearing, the plea hearing, things had gotten out of control. A brawl had erupted between the families. Deputies got hurt trying to break it up. People were angry. People wanted blood. So this time, they weren't taking any chances. After some back and forth, after Aisha refused to come out multiple times, Fox 2 News agreed to blur Aisha's face in their coverage. They did it to keep the hearing moving, to prevent any more delays. Because at the end of the day, this family deserved closure. So Aisha finally came into the courtroom, and the family got their chance to speak.
She was only 3. She barely said a couple words. She didn't bother nobody. Just the thought that she suffered. I can't get that out of my mind. She suffered.
That's what hurt the most. Not just that Harmony was gone, but that she suffered, that she felt pain, that she was scared and hurt and didn't understand why. Then Judge Ramsey held up a piece of paper. Aisha's so-called apology letter.
But the 6 letters here, I sorry, barely reaches an apology.
6 sentences. That's all Aisha wrote. 6 sentences after taking a child's life. The judge wasn't impressed. The family wasn't impressed. Nobody in that courtroom was buying whatever weak apology Aisha tried to offer. Then came the sentence. Judge Kelly Ramsey sentenced Aisha Harris to 28 to 50 years in prison. At the earliest, she'd be eligible for parole when she was 58 years old. Almost 3 decades behind bars. And the family made sure Aisha knew exactly what was waiting for her behind those prison walls. Because in prison, child killers don't have it easy. Other inmates know what you did, and they don't take kindly to people who hurt babies. Aisha was about to walk into a world where her crime made her a target, where every day would be a struggle, where she'd have to watch her back constantly. The hearing ended. Aisha was led out in handcuffs. The family left the courtroom emotionally drained, but relieved it was finally over. The legal part, anyway? The emotional part? The trauma? The grief? That was going to last forever. Harmony Henderson was 3 years old when her life was stolen from her. She had her whole future ahead of her. She could have grown up, could have learned to communicate in her own way, could have lived a full life surrounded by people who loved her. But Aisha Harris took that away. Took it all away, over frustration, over anger, over 3 hours of wanting to get high instead of doing her job. This case shook Detroit to its core, made people realize you can trust someone for decades and still not know what they're capable of. Paris, England, will never be the same. She'll carry this for the rest of her life. Marquise Henderson will never forget those words. Blunt force trauma. Blunt force trauma. A 3-year-old autistic baby. And Harmony? She's gone. But her story matters. It matters because we all have a responsibility to protect the most vulnerable among us. Rest in peace, Harmony Henderson. You deserved the world.